Hi, I'm Dan.
And I'm Todd.
And we're the Wombats. And we've picked an album to talk about that's one of our favourites.
Most
Todd,
influential.
my beautiful assistant Todd here is going to now showcase what it looks like. There we go.
The band is Radiohead, the album is Kid A, as you can see.
Yeah, I remember being 16 when it came out. And it was like, I was such a big fan of Radiohead already. And I think like for people in bands growing up, it's they're one of those bands that like changed almost like album to album, and they're like an ideal of the freedom that a band has to like make whatever music they want and to change styles altogether. And this album obviously all of a sudden was like the first time I'd heard ambient electronic music.
It was
mixed
a proper
with amazing melodies and songwriting. And
it's a proper eye-opener, I think, for me personally, like having a guitar band, having the courage to do something that different, and it completely blew my mind at the time. And I guess like to begin with, I wasn't too sure what does this mean, what is this, it's a bit like a foreign territory or whatever, but as soon, listening more and more to it, was a proper grower, and the more I listened to it, the more I liked it, and the more it influenced like how I was like seeing music, how I was writing music. It was really
so
inspirational, and it completely changed how I was producing or writing songs at the time.
There's still like, it obviously goes from like, there are songs on there that are ambient, floaty, kind of dreamy sounding things, and then a song that we always play at like DJ sets, like Idiotech, all of a sudden goes into that kind of thing, and then the last song on the album is like the perfect outro, just like house organ, and it's just so creative. It's amazing.
Talking about like an album opener, that is like a bit of a, like having everything in its right place as an album opener is just an insane. It's so simple, it's so minimalistic, but like just the sounds, how things put together is so well crafted.
I wouldn't say it's simple.
Yeah, but it's simple in the way that it's not like layered loads and loads and loads. It's like you can hear every single thing that is going on, and it's very well thought through, and it's kind of like everything makes sense.
There's like, such like unusual time signatures, and they just seem to like. I think that was the first album of theirs that I heard that they pushed themselves as musicians like to just. New levels on. Obviously the first three albums are just amazing as well, but it's challenging, and I guess all like great albums should be challenging for the listener. And
I think they changed the idea of like being in a band as well. Like there's no like real, this is the ideal band. If you wanted to be in one, it would be Radiohead, because like it seems like they can go on and do pretty much whatever they want, and people will accept the fact that they do that. And I think a lot of people in bands would like to have that in their own band as well. Like you can go on and do something completely different or something wild.
For me, they're one of those bands that are like that kind of, a director, like, I don't know, I can't think of one, but like a proper auteur, like a director who every film he comes out with, people will just go and see it no matter what, even if there's bad critics or anything, like people will go and get it, and they're that band for me that, we all will, won't we? We're always interested to hear the next Radiohead album, like what are they going to do, and what's it going to sound like, and
they're an incredible live band as well, and one of the best, probably the best gig I've been to, and we actually got to support Radiohead as well in Arras in France, in a festival in a big square, and it was like unbelievable. We were proper like fanboys, kind of like taking photos next to the like gear and stuff, like the flight cases where it said Radiohead, and we were like, being proper.
Yeah, I remember seeing them in Warrington. They did this like tour they did the tour I think of the UK in like marquee tents, and went to see them like on that album. And I remember absolutely loving it, but I was gutted because they didn't play Street Spirit, and I was learned to play that on the guitar, so I was like. They didn't play it. But anyway. Not really. To be honest, I could have picked the Bends, OK Computer, or In Rainbows, like In Rainbows is probably one of my favourites by them, to be honest. But I think the thing is, like, obviously we wanted to pick one that together, it was a moment in our lives when it was like, right, this opened up new worlds. And OK Computer was actually that album for me, just, you know, before that one. But then when this one came, it was just like, what? You know, it introduced me to a whole different style of music, I guess. And I mean, yeah, it's hard to pick one of their albums, isn't it? It could have been any of those ones, really.
No, it's because of that, like the fact that it was so unexpected what it did, that they, you know, had the balls to do something like that. It was such a bold move, and I think that's why, you know, I think all the other albums has been, you know, I do like all of them, but this one was the one that stood out because it kind of, yeah, it changed how I was seeing and hearing things, and it just proved the point that you can really take things, you know, like you know, you can really play around with music in a different way.
And I guess after that album, the shock factor, or the, you know, the wow, this is so challenging, you started almost expecting it. You know, after that it was like, oh, what's going to happen next? And yeah.
It kind of like, it also led me on to like listening to a lot, you know, understanding and liking loads of other like electronic music, and that got me into Air, for example, and the No Twist, you know, like that kind of, it kind of led me on to like, oh yeah, it kind of like, there's all this other music that it's kind of bandy, but it's still like, you know, it's within the electronic side of, or electronic genre or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and that album, and to be honest, ones after that, like, actually I know OK Computer as well, but it makes you kind of like approach songwriting in like slightly different ways, I think, and especially being like 15, 16, you know, so you're in a very formative time of your life where you're just like a sponge, and maybe you're trying to learn different instruments and stuff. And I remember obviously learning to play guitar along to some of the songs, and like being really inspired to like learning to play the piano to some of the songs. And I think it's obviously very unusual, like chords and rhythms and stuff, so it's like it is amazing like how inspiring a lot of their music can be, just for you to try and learn different stuff. It makes you just want to try and play everything, like, and how do they make those sounds with the synths? You know, we do that now. We sit in our studio, like, playing with these old vintage synths and stuff, that maybe that was one of the first moments that we had, you know, without realising it. Maybe that was where that love for, like, the exciting new sound that you've never heard comes from. Yeah.
They're definitely like a musician's band, like a bit of a muso, kind of, like...
Oh yeah, my uncle, when I remember listening to Hail to the Thief, that album, and I was really into Sail to the Moon. I played it to my uncle, and he hasn't got a clue about music anyway. He's like, oh my god, this sounds like the Moody Blues tuning up. Is that guy on the toilet when he's singing this? You know, and I was just like, you can't say that about Tom York. He's just like, you know, this sounds awful. So it's obviously not everyone's taste as well. But I think when you're younger, that makes you even more like a band, when if your parents and your family are like, I mean, I'm not sure about this. It's like, right, I'm 100% sure now.
Hello, you're with Jamie and Ed from One Midwifery Club, and we've chosen Talking Heads' Remain in Light as one of our favourite albums.
Hey, I'm Ellie Golding, and I'm here to talk about my favourite record. And my favourite record of all time is by Pearl Jam, and it's called 10. It's my favourite album for many reasons. I discovered it at a time where I was looking for something to save me when I was a teenager. I was about 15 years old, and I met this guy that I basically fell in love with, or thought I fell in love with. He was my sister's boyfriend's brother.